Welcome to Nonprofit Spotlight, where we shine a light each month on a local nonprofit organization. Today we welcome Lou Pambianco from Startup Sandbox, a nonprofit that aims to enhance Santa Cruz's biotech competitiveness. Let's start with a short video to give you an idea what we will be talking about.
Judy Owen, and I'm the chairman of Startup Sandbox, a new incubator for biotech companies on the west side in Santa Cruz. Decided that Santa Cruz could use an incubator to really focus on biotech companies coming out of the university. I wanted to see Santa Cruz have that kind of energetic environment for entrepreneurs.
My name is Alireza Chavosh. I'm the director of Startup Sandbox. Project was basically initiated by the Genomics Institute and Cubitry in UCSC. We opened the doors of this incubator in August, and since then we have had over five companies that have joined us.
My name is Robert Feldman. I'm CEO of Prime Genomics. We are developing non-invasive platforms for disease diagnostics, and we're working on cancer. We're the first company in to Startup Sandbox, and we saw the opportunity here to get our lab up and running and to have nice office space. So we're really excited about the community that we're building, and we see the potential to really help to accelerate what's going on in Santa Cruz with startup companies like ours in biotech and in health, but also in other areas as well. One of the things that's happened in the last 10 years or so in biotech and in genomics is that it's become much less expensive to get a company going. And this wasn't the case as recently as 10 or 12 years ago. What Santa Cruz Sandbox and other incubators in the Bay Area and across the country have done is they've taken and built common facilities and common lab areas that multiple companies can use. And that really helps companies like ours get going with really a kind of a minimal level of funding.
My name's John Feltz. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a local new startup here called Cruz Foam. We are focusing on making sustainable, biodegradable foam for surfboards. Basically, surfboards are typically made with polyurethane or polystyrene foam as their core, which are non-renewable and they don't biodegrade. So they are not very nice, eco-friendly materials. So what we're doing is we're making a foam out of shrimp shell waste. And we are just moved in here to Startup Sandbox, this new incubator here in Santa Cruz, and it has been fantastic. They've really helped us get situated. We moved out of UC Santa Cruz. We started as a research kind of lab up there, getting the tech going, and once we became a business, we needed our own lab space, and Startup Sandbox was the perfect match, allowing us to come in, really streamlined, helped us set up and get our business going.
My name is Charlene Jane and I'm with Cruz Foam. Right now, it's a perfect timing for us that we are in the stage, we have our prototype already and we are trying to scale it up. And we have this lab space and then trying to figure out the prototype by the end of the year.
This is John Turiak. I'm the CEO of Santa Cruz Waveworks. I've been here at the Sandbox since August 1st. It's been a really great experience. The facility here is first class. We have a great environment. We're right here next to Natural Bridges, and we have all the amenities of a great facility in a small local town. Proud of what we're doing here, and this is the great facility to launch our company. We feel it's an honor for us to be here, and we're looking forward to building up our application and building our company here in Santa Cruz.
Lou, that was very interesting. One of the things that I noticed a lot was the word incubator. And, you know, I and probably the viewers want to know, why the term incubator?
So innovation needs to be incubated. Mm-hmm. It needs to be grown in an environment that's supportive, that gives the opportunity to the entrepreneur to have programs that will facilitate rapid learning and how to start a company, how to register for IP, how to raise funds to support the company. And then most importantly, to do the research that advances the idea behind the company. So we incubate early stage entrepreneurial ventures.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting to me, and thank you for that explanation. And I hope the viewers understand it like I a lot better now. Why don't we go back to how did it all get started?
UC Santa Cruz is one of the top universities in the nation in applied research grants. And over the years, they've been #1 in the nation, ahead of MIT. They've been tied with MIT last year for #1 in the nation in applied research grants. What that says is that on the Hill, the students and the faculty are really involved in deep research that at its core is changing our lives every day. Mm-hmm. And that research needs to be incubated. It needs to be cared for in an environment where individuals can come out of the university and into Startup Sandbox to further develop the basic premises and to commercialize that research. So this is a step that has been long in the making at the university. The Genomics Institute was started several years ago. Mm-hmm. We have some wonderful volunteers from that Genomics Institute who are helping us. Ann Pace is a liaison with the university. Barry Holm Nazario has been the lab director, mm-hmm. So she's created all of the specifications for the lab and what researchers need. Lilia Sandoval has helped us on the HR side. All of them are arm's length from the Sandbox. They're employees of the university, so as a nonprofit, they can advise us, and they're doing a marvelous job. Judy and I were contacted by them in March.
Judy Owens?
Judy Owen.
Yeah, Owen.
And they asked us, given our background, would we consider starting a 501c3 mm-hmm. Startup Sandbox? So we did the background analysis. We interviewed the various people, and we looked at other labs in the area. And there's a real need for what are called wet labs. In other words, labs where individuals can come and they can actually be at lab benches. They can have access to -80-degree freezers, autoclaves, and DI water systems, so on and so forth. That's very expensive. So through the Office of Industry Alliances and Commercialization of Technology, which is headed by Associate Chancellor Mohammed Abu Salem, and reports to Chancellor Scott Brandt, we were able to begin negotiations with the university to establish the Sandbox, find a location, and have an agreement with the university to actually have access to funding that was supported and proposed by Janet Napolitano, Chancellor of the University of California. And AB 2664 was passed by the state legislature to encourage innovation and growth across 10 campuses of the UC system. So UC Santa Cruz received $2.2 million. We received a portion of that, and there were other programs that were also instituted to encourage innovation. Mm-hmm. Innovation in the arts, innovation in other areas. We're innovation in the sciences. So happy that that happened. And we're here to help these entrepreneurs license the IP out of the university, grow that IP portfolio in the Sandbox, and commercialize that IP into products that are going to change the lives of people.
Yeah, I was going to say that because it's not only helping the entrepreneurs, you're actually bringing the academics into reality through the Sandbox and helping the entrepreneurs, but actually the community is benefiting from that particular work that you're doing. You're a strong link to the community then.
We're a strong link to the community, absolutely. Santa Cruz has a richness of innovation and entrepreneurialism. This is going to catapult that richness into another realm.
And so you talked a couple times about IP. Our viewers may not necessarily know what IP is, so could you explain that a little bit?
Certainly. When an individual is doing research and they find something that is indeed significant and is going to lead to perhaps a breakthrough, they'll file for what they call intellectual property patents. And IP is that intellectual property that then gets patented.
Yes.
And the university has a tremendous portfolio of disclosures, which are patents that have been filed in the name of the researcher and the university. To commercialize that, those patents need to be licensed out of the university into Startup Sandbox. And then from there, the entrepreneur can develop a further portfolio of patents in his or her name that then gets commercialized into product that can enter the marketplace.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is that it's a nonprofit that's actually, and that's the wonderful thing, is because I can imagine if an entrepreneur starts up a business, there is a lot of needs, and you're not only giving support by providing space in the wet labs, but you probably also are giving support in other ways.
You know, there's many facets of support that an entrepreneur needs.
Yes.
And particularly if they've been involved in research at a university level. That is very important. But to actually step out of the university is a scary proposition. You know, how do I start a company? What licenses do I need? How do I get funding? What do I, as an entrepreneur, do to build this company? Ali Reza Shawash, who's our director of Sandbox operations, will be providing programs to these entrepreneurs so that they can learn these different things. We've engaged O'Melveny and Myers, a legal firm on Sand Hill, and they're our legal counsel. David Macarishan is a partner in the lead, and they will offer programs also to the entrepreneurs. So a young entrepreneur can incorporate through O'Melveny and Myers at no expense. IP filings can be made, and they're there to help them do those IP filings and create an IP strategy, intellectual property strategy, right, to protect their idea. All of these programs are very important.
Yeah, yeah. And so what other things are currently going on at the incubator, at the Sandbox?
Well, you can imagine the amount of work it is to begin from ground zero and actually specify a wet lab with all the equipment that's needed, to begin to work with the city on the permitting process. And the city has been wonderful in supporting this. Lee Butler is the new director of city planning, came over from the city of Santa Clara and previously the city of San Jose. We've had meetings with him. He's been very helpful in outlining a process for permitting. We've worked with Bonnie Lipscomb out of the city as well. So these are people that can really support us and have been very helpful. We are now in the process of the real work at hand, and that is building what entrepreneurs need. And we had an immediate request for space. And initially we had 4 entrepreneurs that were looking to occupy our space. Today we are up to 7. And there are additional entrepreneurs coming out of the university each week, each month. So we're building a backlog. We need to be in a position where as we build and spend, we have tenancy that we can depend on. So those are all the things we're doing. In addition to that, We're in constant communication with faculty, undergrads, graduates, postdocs, so that they understand the value that we bring, and perhaps we can create a path that is a path that gets them into the sandbox for their next level of development in a way that's painless and that they have a lot of support.
Great. Now you're talking about your facility. Where is your facility? How big is it? And how did you get into the facility?
So the facility is at 250 Natural Bridges. We're between Delaware and Mission. Ideally located just down the hill, a bicycle ride from the university. We have a lot of parking. That's a problem at the university, as you know. The building was previously occupied by the university, and when the university moved to the Borland buildings in Scotts Valley, this property became available. So we negotiated a sublease to fill out 18 months of the remaining lease that the university had, and then we're in the process of negotiating a long-term lease with the landlord.
And so how big is the facility? How many square foot?
The facility is 13,500 square feet. It's ideally situated for us. It has a 3,000 square foot warehouse, and that warehouse will be converted into our permanent wet lab. So it'll have a wonderful feel of a warehouse, and yet have all
Will it be divided in sections, or will it just be one general?
It is L-shaped, so we'll have 10 5-foot benches down the length of the L, and then 10 5-foot benches down the base of the L. And those are double-sided benches, so we could host up to 40 entrepreneurs in that space, depending on the amount of bench space they need.
Right. And I saw in the video there were like cubicles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we also host what we would call dry lab space. So there are many disclosures of intellectual property at the university that don't need a wet lab. What they need is a cubicle, or they may need an individual office where they could do bioinformatics work under Dr. David Hausler.
From the genomics, he's from the genomics project?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Dr. David Hausler and his team were the first to map the human genome.
Right.
And then they released what was called the genomic browser, which is an open source browser, and scientists all over the world are utilizing that browser on a daily basis to collaborate with each other, to identify areas of research where they are working. And there's 1.2 million hits a day on that genomic browser. So big data is a critical piece to genomics. How do you analyze the DNA data that you're gathering, the genomics profiles? Out of this will come precision medicine. As an example, the Breast Cancer Federation of America has designated the Genomics Institute as the repository for the genomic profiles of women with breast cancer. So you can imagine being able to assess all of that data, make sense out of it, begin to see patterns. That leads to precision treatment, and that treatment differs from woman to woman. So this is a dry lab type of disclosure or intellectual property that perhaps some of the folks out of David Hausler's group will come and they'll rent office space to do that sort of big data analysis.
And so I hear you say office space. People, the entrepreneurs rent the office space, and how do they get the financing to do that setup in the sandbox?
So what we're providing is office space that is very high level, very functional. Lab space that provides a level of equipment that they would not be able to afford on their own. Think of us as a 5-star hotel where an individual can come in with a credit card and rent just what they need when they need it at a price that's reasonable, not the price of a 5-star hotel. So very reasonable prices. And entrepreneurs could go to our website and they can get a flavor for what's available at what cost structure.
Perfect.
Some of these entrepreneurs will have a level of funding. Maybe they have an SBIR grant. Others will need some funding. So one of our missions is to look for individuals who can provide seed funding to some of these relevant entrepreneurial endeavors.
So there's another level of the nonprofit in support of the entrepreneurs besides having the space and the connection with the university. They need to write grants, and you're providing some support in that, as I understand that?
We're providing support to them. Many of them are very good grant writers, particularly postdocs and faculty. Others are new to it. Alireza will be creating programs, that give instruction as to how best to position what you're doing for a grant proposal.
Great. Now, what types of startups are you looking for?
We had an interesting conversation this morning with the director of a lab in the Tri-Cities in Livermore. And they're associated with Lawrence Livermore Labs. There's a lot of research being done there. In effect, what he said was, provide the space that individuals need to be successful. And you have a university in the University of California at Santa Cruz that has a deep, deep knowledge base across many fields. So don't limit what comes to you. Open the doors and provide the network of capability that supports those entrepreneurs. They'll define what needs to come to the Sandbox. That was very important because we want to open the doors to those individuals who have the energy and the excitement around critical ideas that can be brought into the Sandbox. So we're open across the board.
Okay, so I understand you get both entrepreneurs from the university, now you're talking Tri-City. How else are you finding and recruiting the entrepreneurs?
So we are in touch with UCSF, and UCSF has an incubator that was spun out over 9 years ago, very successful, so successful that they are now building a second incubator. So they are life science specific because UCSF is a teaching hospital. We have had already referrals from what's called QB3953 for entrepreneurs that are specializing in genomics. So why not come to UC Santa Cruz where the epicenter of genomics exists? So we're reaching out to various areas. We'll reach out to incubators on the East Coast. Lab Central in Boston is a very successful incubator. We have an entrepreneur that was one of the top entrepreneurs out of MIT that was doing work in genomics. Came to Berkeley and is now recognizing that he can come to Sandbox.
Great.
So he'll be joining us in the spring.
Great. So you don't have to do much recruiting. It looks like things are brought to you from the different universities.
So,
or are you doing outreach?
Outreach is critical to our success. Absolutely. Alireza Shoash, our Director of Operations, is very familiar with many of the professors at the University of California at Santa Cruz, is well respected in the community, and is actually reaching out to individual deans, chairs, faculty, graduate, and postgrad. Those are very important outreaches. In addition, we're reaching out to other incubators, allowing them to know that We're in business.
Yeah. We have a couple minutes left, and one of the questions that came up for me was, what are your future plans?
Well, future plans are to be successful. To the extent that we as a Sandbox can be successful, our entrepreneurs are going to be successful. So we want to fill the space up. We're working off of a business model that says when you come into the Sandbox, we anticipate you'll be here for perhaps a year to a year and a half. That should be enough time to commercialize and then move you into that next area of your development of a company. What we want to do is to keep those entrepreneurs in Santa Cruz and keep those companies in Santa Cruz. This adds tax value to the entire community.
Right.
It adds recognition globally. Santa Cruz is a wonderful tourist destination. We see the opportunity for it to be a continuation of a tourist destination and a scientific hub, in the same way that Mission Bay is a scientific hub for life sciences in the greater San Francisco area.
Right. So we have one last question. The community, how can the community get involved?
We just want the community to be aware of and proud of what the University of California, Santa Cruz is, what their meaning is in the global community, and to really understand that the kinds of curative measures that we'll see in the future, precision medicine and others, are going to come out of what's happening at the university and out of Sandbox. So their lives will be improved. Help us by supporting this initiative, and help us by coming and just driving by and seeing who we are.
Okay, well, thank you, Lou, for the exciting information about the Sandbox. And thank you to the viewers for watching. Nonprofit Spotlight can be seen weekly on Tuesdays on channel 27 and 73 at 5:30 p.m. and on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Goodbye.